By the 1570s, the Kecoughtan were a large and powerful chiefdom along the Powhatan-James River waterfront. In Algonquian languages, Kecoughtan probably means great town, or the name may also refer to plowed and hoed land within a town. In 1571, Spanish colonizers described a large population living on the shores near Point Comfort, now Fort Monroe. The size and power of Kecoughtan was also described in the 1580s by Tsenacommacah, werewolves of Chowanoke, near the Albemarle Sound in present-day North Carolina. Tsenacommacah told English colonizers at Roanoke about a great king living by an island, probably a spit of land on today's VA hospital campus, in a large bay to the north. This king was so wealthy that his own clothing, the clothing of his people, and his home were adorned with pearls, which Tsenacommacah described as a wonder to see. According to Tsenacommacah, Kecoughtan's powerful werewolves visited Chowanoke around 1583. Archaeologists' analysis of ceramic pottery fragments suggests that the Kecoughtan were probably more closely connected to Algonquian-speaking people toward the south in the Albemarle, northeastern North Carolina, than with chiefdoms to the north along the James and York rivers. However, in the 1580s, a rival werewolf to the north of Kecoughtan was also rising to power. Tsenacommacah, later known by the title Powhatan, began to consolidate control over several chiefdoms along the James and York rivers. Powhatan built a paramount chiefdom over these chiefdoms called Tsenacommacah. Tsenacommacah apparently saw Kecoughtan as being two powerful neighbors to side with the Great Powhatan. Around 1597, the werewolves of Kecoughtan died. Powhatan seized the advantage by attacking Kecoughtan, replacing its population with a much smaller chiefdom loyal to himself. He installed a son, Powhatan, as werewolf and moved the remaining original Kecoughtan to the interior of his territory. In 1608, Powhatan made a similar attack on Piankatank near the mouth of the Rappahannock River, and afterwards the original Kecoughtan resettled there. In 1607, Powhatan's chiefdom at Kecoughtan formed the southernmost area of Powhatan's territory, much smaller than its original population. I have read online that the average Kecoughtan house could house between 616 people, and the average Powhatan house could house between 620 people. I have also learned that in the early 1590s, the town of Kecoughtan had 300 houses instead of 30 houses like it did in 1607, likely because 90% of the population died from European diseases during that time. So according to these estimates, the town of Kecoughtan in the early 1590s probably had between 1,800 and 4,800 people, with an average of 11 people per house, or 3,300 people living in the town. And before 90% of the Chesapeake Bay region's natives died from diseases, there were likely many other towns in that region with several thousand people. And before the disease deaths in the late 1500s as a whole, where 95% of the natives died from diseases, it was probably a more densely populated region than the world average population density. And in 1524, Verrazano reported the whole East Coast to be densely populated, and even the native name for the region Tsenacommacah means densely inhabited land, referring to the high population density in the region. And that likely really means it was densely populated, because they traded with and knew of areas in pre-colonial North America that were pretty densely populated, like in the land of what is today the 5 boroughs of New York City, which is about 300 square miles, and had around an estimated 15,000 natives living there in 1524, spread across many small towns and villages, which is 50 people per square mile in that time. Tidewater, Virginia in 1524 may have had around 180,000 to 420,000 natives, given that likely 90–95% of natives in the area died from diseases in the late 1500s, over an area of roughly 8,000 square miles. That's a pretty high population density for back in that era.